Welcome to Strategic Justice in Action with David Senoff.
Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of Strategic Justice in Action with David Senoff, the founding partner over at First Law Strategy Group. I'm your host, Mike Leon. David here is a plaintiff's attorney focused on appellate advocacy, insurance bad faith, and public policy litigation that holds corporations and governments accountable. And in today's episode, we're talking about what happens when lawyers themselves become the subject of legal scrutiny. David's going to explain the ethics, the accountability part of this, and the trust that really keeps the justice system working as it should. David, it's good to see you as always. Let's start with the first question here, which is you've spent more than a decade involved in professional oversight, like I just alluded to. For the listeners who may not know what that means, what exactly does the Pennsylvania Disciplinary Board do?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me back. It's great to be here. The Disciplinary Board of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, which is its full name, is a board that is commissioned and appointed by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court as part of their the Supreme Court's constitutional responsibility to oversee who becomes a member of the bar. And then once you're a member of the bar, whether or not you're going to stay a member of the bar. And so the disciplinary board, along with hearing committees of the board, are responsible for deciding whether or not somebody's conduct has violated the Pennsylvania Rules of Professional Conduct. There's some other rules, but generally whether or not you as an attorney have violated the rules, and if so, what kind of punishment will result from that behavior. And I say punishment because it is a punishment, but at the same time, the goal of the system is to rehabilitate anybody who has, transgressed the rules or anything like that. And the main focus of the board is protection of clients, the public. So we hear complaints generally from clients of attorneys who believe that the attorney has committed some kind of ethical transgression.
Right. So let me ask you then, let's talk about the process. So a complaint's filed against an attorney. How does that process kind of unfold from the investigation part of this to the potential disciplinary part of this?
So you could go on the disciplinary board's website. I mean, if you just Google Pennsylvania Disciplinary Board, it'll come up. You can file a complaint directly online, and then it goes to the separate prosecutorial arm of the system, which is very much like a local district attorney's office. And they will review your complaint, perhaps give you a call. They're all attorneys there. They have investigators, non-attorney investigators there as well. Some retired police officers, retired FBI agents, mostly forensic type accounting people, but some, straight up former detectives and investigators. They then look into it, investigate what the complaint has to say, and then return that information back to an attorney who's been assigned the case. Once that attorney gets the case, they fill out some forms, decide whether or not they want to go forward. And if they want to go forward, then they can go ahead and file a complaint against the attorney that the client has made a complaint about.
And what do those typical, complaints look like in terms of the type of conduct that's leading to a potential disciplinary action? Is it intentional violations? Is it usually some smaller lapses that spiral? What does that tend to look like, the types of conduct?
So, it can span the gamut. There are a lot of ethical rules, as you can imagine, which you'd want. You want attorneys to have these kind of ethical rules. I will just say it's easier to describe what you really can't complain about. So as opposed to what you can complain about, right? So what you can't complain about is, you thought after you signed a fee agreement that you paid too much, right? Typically, disputes about payment are referred to the Bar Association's fee dispute resolution system, and they have a whole system for that. However, if you were charged, like, for example, in a contingency fee case, everybody knows, like, oh, if you're in a car accident, you don't get paid unless we get paid. If those fee agreements are excessive, for example, if the attorney says, like, if we win, I get 90% and you get 10, that is a complaint you can make to the disciplinary board because excessive fees are illegal. But the most common, I would say, things that we see, I like to refer to in a joking way as lying, cheating, and stealing, followed closely by drinking, smoking, and gambling. So, it's I'm joking when I say that, but it really does fall into those kind of categories, right? We see a lot of situations where attorneys who are really in economic hardship, perhaps commingling funds, client funds, their own funds within one bank account, which you're not supposed to do. We see them using client funds perhaps as a short-term loan to themselves or their own law firm, which you obviously can't do. We also see just attorneys who are overloaded with work, right? Particularly attorneys who get a lot of court-appointed cases, and they're so burdened with work that stuff falls through the cracks, right? And they're not, they miss deadlines, or, they just don't keep the clients informed about what's going on in their cases. And then, unfortunately, we do see a lot in the profession of just the same as in, the general public, addictive behaviors, drinking, drugs, which lead to, bad outcomes, people missing, again, deadlines, not showing up in court for a client when they're supposed to be there, just flat out lying to clients about what happened. And that all of the things that can happen as a result of an addiction, as you can imagine, play themselves out in these cases.
A lot of the times there's ethical problems too. Where do you suppose these ethical problems mostly begin? Is it misunderstanding the rules? Is it something else like you just kind of mentioned?
I mean, I do think a lot of it is driven by two things. One is, like you said, either a misunderstanding or just a total, I don't want to say ignorance of the rules, but forgetting the rules, right? I mean, every law student has an ethics class. You have to take an ethics test as part of the bar exam in order to pass. You have to take a certain number of continuing legal education credits in ethics in order to maintain your license every year. But you'd be shocked to learn how many people don't review the rules in specific. And then when faced with an ethical dilemma, people, particularly in smaller firms, rather than calling an attorney who they know deals with this kind of stuff and getting an opinion from that attorney about the situation, what we call an ethics opinion, they just plow ahead and do what they think is right. And a lot of times what they think is right is not what's right. And so I would say that, a lot of the transgressions are not intentional in the sense that the attorney starts out by thinking, I'm going to go out today and commit an ethics violation, right? But they end up getting themselves into situations where that ends up happening because they didn't stop, take a look at the rules, call somebody, or get a formal opinion. I mean, the bar associations themselves offer like an ethics hotline where, you can call up anonymously as an attorney and describe your problem, and they'll give you a read on what you should do.
David, let me ask you, because now that we've entered post-COVID time, you got technology and remote work that has kind of changed the way lawyers are handling client information. Are there some ethical challenges there that you see emerging in that space?
So yeah, in that space and in the AI space as well. So um, when you think about attorney-client relationship, just like a doctor-patient relationship, or even your relationship with your priest, right, or your accountant, these are all places where you, as the client, expect to give information to the professional, and that they're going to keep it confidential. The problem that we've seen is, attorneys use, for example, Google Drive or Dropbox, or I'm not singling any of these services out, but at the same time, you have to be certain that the service that you're using is, has bank level encryption, because in the event of a hack, or even not a hack of your law firm, but a hack of one of those services, right? Then, it's like, picture a paper file at the corner of the busiest intersection you can picture in your city or town, and somebody's just there opening up the file box and taking a tour of your file with all your confidential information in it. And a lot of times, particularly in cases that involve injuries to people, there's medical records in there, right? And in the medical records is all your personal identifying information, right? Your date of birth is in your medical records, your social security number. So all of these things are problematic. And on the AI front, when people are like, oh, this is great, I can upload all this information about a case and it spits out a summary. I mean, I personally have seen cases where attorneys upload medical records, because guess what? AI, if nothing else, is a great summarizer. And when you have thousands of pages of medical records that need to be summarized, or deposition testimony that needs to be summarized, boy, it's really easy to just upload it, have it spit you back a summary. The summaries are usually pretty good, not very hallucinated. But the problem is that you've now given AI a copy of someone's personal data, right? And I mean, at least when you're talking about Dropbox or one of these cloud storage services, you generally have an idea of what's going on with that data. But with AI, no idea whether they're using it to train it, no idea how they're storing it, whether it's encrypted, what their safety measures are like from the outside in. And there's more than just ChatGPT out there that will help lawyers and people understand, a lot of data or complex data. And so all of these places are, ripe for an ethical violation, in the sense that you're disclosing confidential information.
So, David, let me ask you then, piggybacking on that, for, let's say, a firm leader is listening to this right now, what are some practical steps that they should start taking to help prevent potential breaches before they even reach, a disciplinary board?
I mean, I think, look, AI is here to stay on the AI front, right? And so, there are services, for example, Google and Microsoft and AWS, they all offer cloud storage that's super encrypted, bank level encryption, right? And most firms are already using either Microsoft's Azure or AWS's highest level of security. But the AIs are a different story. And so there are AIs, through Lexis and other outlets that have bank level security, and also where you can sort of segregate the information on your computer and allow the AI to look at that segregated information without uploading it. So look, like I said, AI is here to stay, and we ought to use it if possible. But at the same time, you really need to investigate whether or not the service you're using provides that level of security, and then make sure that nobody else is out freelancing on some other service within your firm.
David, as we wrap on this episode and you look back on the career and the oversight service that you've done, what's maybe one or maybe the most important lesson you've learned about integrity and accountability in law?
I mean, I will say, I hate to use some kind of cliche, but honesty is the best policy, right? And if you make a mistake, 9 times out of 10, if you tell a client, look, we lost something, here's the reason why we lost, or something happens in the course of their case or your representation of them, just tell them. Because 90% of the time, when you just tell them and explain it to them, people are very understanding, and then it doesn't snowball into something larger.
David, thank you for the time and insights on this. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you. It was good to see you.
And that's it for today's episode of Strategic Justice in Action. If you want to learn more or you want to connect with David and his team over at First Law Strategy Group, do me a favor. Visit firstlawstrategy.com today to connect with them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review or comment, or share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. As always, I'm Mike Leon. See everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.